Coming to North America. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Welcome to the program. Today's guest was born in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario. He was a goaltender, played 4 seasons with the St. Mike's Majors, played 15 pro seasons of hockey in the AHL, EPHL, and the NHL. 2 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 2-time OHA Senior All-Star, former Maple Leaf scout, former Maple Leafs general manager. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Gerry McNamara. Gerry, great to have you on, my friend. Yes, it's good to see you. So tell me about growing up in Sturgeon Falls. I looked it up. It's not far from North Bay, near Lake Nipissing. Tell us about growing up there and playing hockey there.
Well, I have to tell you, I was a Falconbridge boy, the Falconbridge nickel mines. And at the time of the way I was born, my mother went to Sturgeon Falls. That was her home. So she was there just for the birth. And then when I was born, they brought me back to Falconbridge. So I didn't spend any time to Sturgeon Falls.
Just a few days when you were born. That's
few
about
days,
it, right?
Few days. But I have no problem saying I was born in Sturgeon Falls.
Right. There you go. So tell me, how did you become a goaltender? What made you decide that goaltender was the occupation for Gerry McNamara?
At the time, we had a midget league, midget NHL in Falconbridge. Bob Wilson started it, and the ages was 6 to 15.
Oh.
So I was 6 playing against 15-year-olds. So my dad stuck me in net. I don't think he wanted me to get hurt, out. So he stuck me in net, and I was there ever since.
Yeah, that's been pretty big spread, 6 to 15. I mean,
yes.
It's a 6-year-old taking some shots from 15-year-olds. That might hurt a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. But you know what? There's no hurt. It's a bruise, and that's it, and you go on.
Well, I tell you, you must have been resilient, no doubt about that. So you go from Falconbridge in minor hockey there as a midget between 6 and 15, and then you end up at St. Mike's. How did that transition take place?
Okay, by the way, the 2 other people from Falconbridge, George Armstrong and Todd Sloan, were both from Falconbridge. So we had pretty good people there. And my brother went to Scholar Hall in North Bay. Then he went to St. Mike's. He played for St. Mike's. So I went to St. Mike's, just as a student,
right?
Not as a hockey. So I can tell you a little story. When I got there, my brother took me to Maple Leaf Gardens, and my first impressions of Maple Leaf Gardens was they don't play here. The ice is too small because the stands. I had never seen stands like this before, and it dwarfed the ice. And I really had a hard time figuring out that they played right on that ice. That's a little kid.
So you go there as a student, and how'd you end up in the hockey team?
Well, my brother got me a tryout with the majors, so I'd never had a pair of goal skates on in my life, and so they gave me a pair of goal skates. I put the pads on. I went out on the ice. Peanut O'Flaherty was the coach. I was out on the ice, and players were skating around. A few pucks were there, so I went and stood in goal. And Peanut O'Flaherty came out and said, "Who's that down there in that goal?" I said, "That's Hal McNamara's young brother. Get him off the ice." So I took him off the ice. That was my tryout. So my brother said, "Don't worry, I'll get you a tryout with the Buzzards, the junior B team." Okay. So I hadn't been on the ice. And once again, I went with the Buzzards to Niagara Falls to play against the Niagara Falls Cataracts. And there were 3 goaltenders. And of course, I played the third period. And at the end of the second period, it was 4-0 for St. Mike's. And at the end of the game, it was 5-4 for Niagara Falls Cataract. so my brother, he went up to the St. Clair. He was going to St. Clair, and I was down on Bay Street. So he came back from St. Clair, and he said, "You've been cut. But don't worry, I'll get you tried with the midget team, Father Gorman's midget team." I said, "Okay." So I played a game with the Father Gorman's midget team, and we beat AC Rhodes 4-1 at Maple Leaf Gardens. And they said, "Okay, there's a game at Western Arena on Friday night at 7:00, something like that." And so I get my stuff and I go up and down the streetcar twice, and I couldn't find Western Arena. I went home, and that was the end of my midget career. I didn't play, and then I ended up being the center ice outdoors, and we won the championship.
So, what team did you end up with outdoors?
It was just a pickup team, the Borders, and they have a contest, and we ended up being the champions. Wasn't very much.
No, right. Yeah,
but it was outdoors.
It was outdoors. Yeah. Okay. So you get cut from the Buzzards. You can't find from the streetcar to the arena for the midget team, and somehow you end up with St. Mike's eventually. How did that happen?
The next year, I went back home, and the next year I showed up at St. Mike's as a student, and a knock came to the door around 7:00, and it was Father Fott, and he was the general manager, and he said, "Gerry McNamara?" I said, "Yes." "It used to play goal?" "Yes." "How would you like to come out and be our practice goaltender?" I said, "Sure." And so I went out as the practice goaltender. I did all the road trips, and that's how. And I stayed there for 2 years as the practice goaltender. I did get into some games. Eddie Chadwick was the goaltender, and I got some games in, and the rest is history. I ended up being a goaltender.
And you end up being the goaltender for the St. Mike's team eventually.
Yes. Yes.
But what an auspicious debut beginning for you. No kidding. You got a great memory, Gerry, too, for remembering all that stuff. Oh my God.
My memory's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. So what do you remember most about the St. Mike's teams?
Had some really good players. We had Jack Caffrey, Mark Riom, Teddy Tabazzini, and Jimmy Logan, Paul Knox. Had some really good players. We were always competitive, but never got over the top. And then, of course, along came Frank Mahovlich and Dick Duff and Les Duff. And we had really good teams, but we never really... I think we went to the finals and got knocked out by St. Catharines. We had them on the ropes. Brian Cullen was there, and they beat us. That's the closest we got.
That was close as you came. Eventually, the majors would win Memorial Cups, but it was after that time period. Hard to believe that a team with Dick Duff, Frank Mahovlich, Gerry McNamara can't win Memorial Cup, but there you go.
Well, I something. It was 1 year. I think it might have been the next year. Les Duff had an old car. It was a 36 Ford, and we lived together. And we were out coming down Bathurst Street in front of the church. The road was icy, and he collided with the car. And I had my foot up in the dash, and my ankle went, and I couldn't play in the playoffs. And they brought in Dennis Regan, but we got beat.
Wow. Well, so, after the majors teams, You went off and became a pro, and this is quite a minor league career you had here. But Pittsburgh Hornets, Winnipeg Warriors, Hershey Bears, Buffalo Bisons, Cleveland Barons, Rochester Americans, all over a 5-year period. I mean, we thought Gary Suitcase Smith moved around a lot. What happened there?
You know something? It was really good. I belonged to Toronto in all those years, and they loaned me out. But the first year, they kept me in Toronto, and I stayed with the Maple Leafs for the year. I practiced with them every day. I went on the long road trips, but I didn't go on the overnight trips, and really enjoyed it. And of course, Todd Stone and George Armstrong were on that team. So I felt right at home.
Right. So you finally did get your chance with the big club in the 1960-61 season. Tell us about getting called up to the Maple Leafs.
I was in Sudbury, and Murph Chamberlain came in and said, listen, Punch wants you to go down to Toronto. Johnny Bauer's hurt. And so I got on the train and went down to Toronto. And of course, February the 13th, we played. And I remember going in the dressing room. I was very quiet, obviously. And the players got up and we went out to the ice. And as soon as I got to the gate, I said, wow, I did it. I did it. That was the first thought I had in my head. And I can tell you this right now, that I felt that when I was playing in the National Hockey League, it was easier playing there than it was playing in the minors.
So why was that? Why would it be easier playing in the NHL than the minors?
They had a really good team, number one. You just played your position. I was a stand-up goaltender. You just played your position and played the angles. And if they hit you, fine. And if you had to move to make the save, fine. But they played really great in front of me, and I thought I played really well. The first game we played against Montreal at the Gardens, and they got an empty net goal. They beat us 3-1. And the next time we went to Montreal, and they hadn't won in Montreal for a few years, from what I gather, and we beat them 4-2. But Imlach wasn't the coach that night. He said he was stuck in a snowdrift in Cleveland. Not too sure about that one. But anyway, we won 4-2. But Phil Goyette came in on a breakaway, and I made the save, but I felt something go on my knee. But I continued, and I played the rest of the game. And I got on the train, and I never said anything. And the next morning, I could hardly walk. So I was out for about 3 weeks. And
of course, yeah.
And then when we come back, when I was ready to play, Ed Houston, who was the commissioner of the EPHL, had phoned Imlach and said, listen, we hear McNamara is all right to play, and Ren Blair wants him to go up to Sudbury. Because Cesar Maniego was going from Sudbury to Toronto, and Punch turned around to me and he said, are you ready to play? I said, yeah, I can play. He said, okay, you're coming with me. They're 1 point out of first place. And Johnny Bauer had a 2-goal lead for the Vezina. And he said, I hadn't played for 3 weeks. And he said, I'm playing instead of Maniego. And Cesar went back to Sudbury.
Wow.
And we ended up tied 2-2. We ended up tied 2-2. And I remember Olmsted coming back and said, Matt, watch Punch because he's going to pull you. Because we still had a chance to catch Montreal. They were playing in Detroit. And just before he was going to do it, they come over the loudspeaker that Montreal Montreal won. So that meant they couldn't catch Montreal.
So it didn't matter. Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Johnny Bauer was in the crowd, and I'm sure he was getting a little nervous.
Right.
Because the Vezina was on the line. But he did win the Vezina. And Johnny was nice enough to give both Caesar and I $100.
Wow, that was well. Johnny was an incredible guy, wasn't
He's a terrific guy, fantastic guy. Johnny Bauer, the salt of the earth. I love Johnny Bauer. He sat, when I came to scout, he was right in front of me in the desk. And I thought he had a job there for life. I certainly would have, if I was the general manager, I would have given it for life. But he ended up, he was getting a little older and they sort of put him out the pasture. And I felt badly about that. I thought they should have kept him.
So
he deserved
for
it
you,
because I know what
yeah.
kind of money he made. I know what kind of
Right.
money he made when he played there,
Yeah.
and he deserved it.
Right.
But that's a lot like when I went to Sweden and was able to get Hammerstrom and Borja. He didn't tell me this, but he told somebody, one of the guys upstairs, either the assistant general manager or the general manager, said Gerry McNamara's got a job here for life for bringing in Borja Salming. And that didn't happen.
Well, you know what?
Because on
right.
February the 7th, in 1988, I got fired by phone. By phone. He was in Toronto. He's just come back from Florida. He'd been ill, and we talked on the phone, and he said, "I want you to quit." I said, "I'm not quitting." He said, "Okay, you're fired."
Right. Yeah, we want to get more into the Harold Bathurst stuff. Before we do that, though, I want to get back to your career. Your playing career. You end up going back to the minors. 8 years. That must have been frustrating for you before you got another shot at the big club.
There were only 6 teams, so there weren't very many goals, and there was only one goaltender per team. So that's 6 goaltenders. So you had to be one of the 6 in order to play. Now, what kind of a chance do you have when you had Doug Plant, Johnny Bauer, and all these guys? You just had to bide your time, and I feel lucky. I feel fortunate that I got the opportunity to play, and I proved I could play. And I felt I wasn't too happy when Quantum left, and the following year he took Donnie Simmons over me. And I remember Larry Regan calling me, and he said, "I told Punch that you were playing great, and he should have taken you, but he didn't." So that's the way it goes. So anyway,
yeah. But the playing career comes to an end. You did get another shot with the Leafs. You won a Senior A title. What was what do you remember as your favorite moment as a player? Was it that moment when you stepped onto the ice at Maple Leaf Gardens and said, "Wow"?
no question, no question. I've been through all those teams, and like I say, I was always loaned out. They didn't sell me. A couple of teams tried to buy me, but they wouldn't sell. And being able to hit Maple Leaf Gardens ice to play in the National Hockey League, doesn't matter whether it's 1 game or 100 games. That was a feat.
Well, there's probably 35 million Canadian kids who would love to just step into those shoes for just that one moment. That's for sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no question. So shortly after your retirement as a player, you were named a scout for the Leafs. How did that come about?
But I got to tell you something else. I played in Charlotte. In Charlotte, I made more money in Charlotte than I made anywhere else other than the National Hockey League, and was the same money that I got in the National Hockey League. Joe Crozier got it from me. He phoned me when I was cut by the Leafs. He said, "How would you like to play for Charlotte?" I said, "Well, it all depends, Joe. Depends what you want to pay me." He said, "I'll give you $7,000." And he said, he gave me Turk Rowe was coach, and they gave me $2,000 when I got there. $2,000 January the 1st, and that I sent home. and then they also gave me, a salary every week. So that added up to $7,000. And I remember the first night, the first game, I was sitting there and I didn't have my pads on. And Turk came in and I said, Turk, check. Get me the check. He said, okay. So anyway, he went back out and he came back and he opened up his breast pocket coat and showed me, and he had an envelope in his coat. That meant that he had the check. So after the game, I said, Turk, you got the check? He said, no, I don't have it.
Criminal.
So there you go. That's the minor.
So,
and I got hurt. I got hurt December the 15th, 1963 in Philadelphia. And it was a 10-hour drive back to Charlotte. And it was close to Christmas, obviously. And I went home for Christmas. And Gaetan Desero took my place. And he played well for them. And Turk phoned me, Matt, you got to come back. It's January the 1st. And he wanted me to come back on the 2nd. And I said, you know what? I'm not sure you need me. When? So he said, no, you got to come back. So I went back and Gaetan did so. When I saw him play the one game, he had a 6-0 shutout. I said, see, Turkey don't need me. And so that was it. I made a deal with him. I said, just give me a plane ticket, because it was very close to having all the money. Just give me a plane ticket and we'll call it square. So that's what we did. And I come home and I got a job.
So
and that was the end of my career. That
Right.
was in 1964, January.
Right.
That was the end of my career. But the crazy part about it, Joe Kane, who was running a team, he just started with they were called the Grads, Toronto Grads.
Right.
He asked me if I wanted to come out. And initially I said no, but then finally he talked me into going out, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And he has a special place in my heart.
And playing senior hockey was fun for you.
Because I ended up playing senior hockey, and then while I was still playing for Aurelia, the Maple Leafs called me up for 2.5 months because Johnny Barr got hurt, and Marv Edwards got hurt, and it was just Bruce Campbell. So I was his backup for the rest of the year. So that's, like I say, so many things fell into place that because of this. And, I ended up playing for the Maple Leafs again. I got into 2 more games.
Right. And then the career as a scout. How did that happen?
I was working for Winwell, selling equipment. I had taken the WHA Houston Aeros and the Chicago Cougars. I drove to Minnesota and took their equipment in my car and gave it to them. Bill Dineen was the coach of Houston, and Jock Demers was coach of Chicago. And I gave them the equipment, and I was on my way home, and I phoned home, and my wife said that Jim Gregory had called and wants to talk to you. So I rushed home. I got home really early, and I phoned Jimmy, and Jimmy said, are you interested in being a scout for us? I said, I'd love to be a scout for you. And so anyway, I went down to see Jimmy and talked to him, and we agreed. But he said, I have to run this by Mr. Ballard. And at the time, Mr. Ballard was in Russia. And so I watched the final game down in the director's lounge with Jimmy and Johnny McClellan. And he said, I'm sure that Mr. Ballard's going to say yes. But he said, I'll let you know. And on October the 1st, I started my career as a scout.
So tell us about, you touched on it earlier, but tell us about how you were able to, first of all, find Borje Salming, perhaps the greatest Maple Leaf defenseman of all time. And you're the reason he made it here. We actually have a clip from Borje. Vic, if you can play that from, we talked to Borje about a year and a half ago, and this is what he had to say.
When I came over, and me and Inga, they told us, we came, I think, a couple of weeks before the training camp, and they told us, listen, if you want to come down and skate, come down and skate, okay. So we said, okay, we come down. We took the equipment down in one of the dressing room there, and we put on the equipment. And then we walked out. Then we looked up in the stands. Then we saw Jimmy, Harold, and I think there was 10 of them. The whole management was standing up there because the only one who had seen me actually was probably Gerry McNamara play hockey. So They really wanted to see how we were doing and if we could skate. So we said, I told Inge, they said, listen, now let's skate, and they really showed them. And, of course, we skated around and were shooting the puck and everything. And that was, I think that was the thing we want to show them. And Gerry told me afterwards, and he said they were so impressed by our skating and shooting and everything. So I guess, and he said, because some of the management said, what the hell, what are we going to do with two Swedes here? They're not going to make it. But when we skated there, they look up to Gerry and said, holy mackerel. Gerry said, yeah, what did I tell you?
So that was it, Gerry. What did you tell them? That was their audition, and
I told Johnny McClone in the summertime. Well, here's what used to happen in the summertime. Those guys would say, Johnny, especially Johnny, he liked to ride me a little bit. He said, you better be right. And Bob Davidson was there, and Bob Davidson went to Russia with me, and he saw him play, and he never said a word. Never said a word. And of course, those guys looked at me and said, well, all we can say is you better be right, because this is something big. I said, you know what, Johnny? Borje is going to be a superstar in this league. Believe me, he's going to be a superstar. And the day that Borje is talking about, I remember like it happened yesterday. And I remember looking at the faces, and their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. That's how good they were. And the rest is history. The only thing that I feel badly about is Inga, because Inga was a great skater. He could shoot the puck and he could score. And he ended up scoring 20 goals for 4 straight years with the Maple Leafs. And they ended up trading him. But the thing that really hurt was when Mr. Ballard came out with that deal about the eggs in the corner. That was an awful thing to happen to Inga, and it cut him to the quick.
Yeah, that was brutal. Well, when we have another clip I want to show, I play for you. This is you at the time when this is happening. Vic, let's play that.
Well, I saw them play in 2 games when I went over just after Christmas, and I made up my mind at that time. Now, we went back for a second look over in Russia at the World Tournament, and of course this sort of corroborated exactly what I had said earlier, that they were good enough to play.
Are they going to make the big club?
That's up to Red Kelly, but in my opinion, I think they'll make the big club, yes. Well, I saw them play a game in Västerås, which is maybe 2.5 hour train ride out of Stockholm. And Hammerstrom that day scored a goal, and Salming moved pretty well. He moves the puck up real quick. He's fast. He's got some great moves. You have to see it to believe it, in my opinion. Now, I'm a little prejudiced, so you have to sort of think about that.
You know, scouting has obviously changed a little bit. You basically literally went to the ends of the earth to look for these guys. What do you remember most about Boria? What stands out to you the most about Boria Song?
His agility. I never ever saw a hockey player with the agility that he had. Like, for instance, he could be going right into the boards. You see he's going to get hurt, and all of a sudden he's up on his feet, and and he just goes about his business. I just couldn't get over how agile he was, and he had speed. I think he's one of the top players ever in the National Hockey League. And he should have won at least 3 or 4 Defenseman of the Year trophies. But I really believe at that time there was a little bit of discrimination. Because, you know, sometimes when players and people move in from someplace else, they say, you know what, well, I'm not sure these guys should be here. But the rest is history. And the magnitude of that whole deal got bigger and bigger and bigger for me, because I kept thinking, what a difference that made for the National Hockey League. It changed the face of the National Hockey League. At the time when Boria came here, you know, he had to fight the Philadelphia Flyers, and it wasn't very nice what went on. But you know, the players that come over later on, you see what they play like. It's a different game, and I think it's a game, a betterment, not worse. And I think the European players made a big difference in the National Hockey League, and it changed the face of the game.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. You know, that started the European invasion. And you think about, you know, Lidstrom and Forsberg, and then you think about Bure. All these guys wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for Boria paving the way, and of course you bringing Boria over in the first place. So, pretty significant. That must feel pretty good for you to be, you know, party to that.
It gets bigger and bigger. I feel better and better when I look at it and see the players are over here now playing. I just say, wow, imagine I had a little bit to do with that. I was lucky enough to see Boria, and he's right out in front of everybody that wanted to see him. But there were no scouts. I know that when I went there, the first year I had the whole thing to myself. The Star Trophy and the Ahern Trophy, 2 tournaments, and I could see as many games as I wanted. And I had some other players too. And like I had Anders Edberg.
Right.
But that's another story. Anyway, I think that, get back to what I was going to tell you. The next year I went over, and the place was loaded with scouts. People were getting off the trains. There'd be scouts from Minnesota, from all over the place. And that was the difference. And it opened up like you wouldn't believe.
Well, eventually you got a chance to become general manager of the Maple Leafs. And I remember you took some heat for, you know, for bringing in a couple of raw rookie goalies, Alan Besser and Ken Reagan. But we actually had Ken on the show recently, and he seemed to think that the problem at that particular time was just timing more than anything else. So let's play that clip.
I think we had a nice core nucleus, and that was with our top lines and our top defensemen, and it was a transition into getting those other guys some experience to get them built up the ladder. Maybe hang on them a little longer. I don't know. In hindsight, I think the guys, Gerry McNamara and Gordie Selleck, I think they did a great job through the whole thing, and it was just something that I think we all tried as hard as we could, and we all tried to make it as best, because he has some really great personalities in there, really heartfelt competitors that wanted to win in the worst way, and I would have liked to see that. I know when I got traded to Philadelphia, I remember leaving the upstairs office with Gerry McNamara after he told me that it was like the biggest thing I wanted to do was win the Stanley Cup, is build something in Toronto, and To this day, it hasn't left. I can't wait till they win it.
What do you think when you remember Kenny Reagan and that
I really
conversation?
liked Kenny Reagan. I really did. And he was a good goaltender. You know something? I look back on things that happened, and some things you can't do anything about because we lost Stevie Thomas, we lost him for nothing because he wouldn't sign with us. I offered him. He was making $80,000, and at his first contract, and I offered him a $50,000 raise. And the feedback that I got, they said, "Oh, they must really want me to give me $50,000 raise." But then I got another piece of feedback that said, "He will not play for John Brophy," and he didn't, and he ended up going to Chicago for nothing. And some things you can put a finger on and say that's my fault, but I don't think that was my fault. I did my best. But the only thing is, I can tell you this, and he's not here to defend himself, but it doesn't matter because he knows how I felt. He should never have been our coach. He was not a good coach. And one of the things I've said many, many times, I don't take responsibility for a road record, or not a road record, a record period. One loss, because I never was able to hire my own coach. I never had the chance to hire my own coach. Each time, Mr. Ballard hired the coach. And that, to me, hurt me really badly because I knew that the players didn't like playing for Brophy. And I couldn't, and I don't know how many times I went in to tell them. I said, "People down at the National Hockey League, tell me, you guys get some really good players." I said, "Well, how come we're not moving?" We're not moving because we knew we had a coach. And I remember mentioning Pat Quinn to him. He said, "I don't want that big dumb Irish." So that was the mentality that was going on there. And if you don't have any, and people say, "Well, why didn't you quit?" I loved the job. I loved it. I wish I was still there. The thing is this: I loved it. I'll give you another insight that I was going to do, and you might look at it and say, "Are you kidding? You do that?" I said, "Yes, I would," because I wanted to win. But we had a first-round draft choice coming up, and Lindros was going to be the first choice, and I was going to try to manipulate things so that our team would end up last.
Yeah.
Sorry for the purists, I'm sorry, but it was so important to get a guy like Lindros, and I got fired, and it didn't happen. And he ended up trading the first round draft choice for Tom Curtis.
Right. That was one of to me that's the worst trade in franchise history, no question about it. You had, like you said, you do a little bit of tanking, which teams have done over the years, no question about that. Let's face it, and you get yourself Lindros. If you don't finish second last like they did, then you end up with Niedermeyer. So either way, you got a team you can build a player you can build a franchise with, and then of course that Kerber's trade was unfair for Kerber's, unfair for Maple Leafs Nation, unfair for everybody, unfair for Lindros, everything. It basically threw everything. It was Floyd Smith's trade, of course, as you know, and it was the worst trade in Maple Leafs history. I want to ask you though, working for Ballard, like how frustrating was that? I mean, I know you love the job.
Okay,
I mean, who wouldn't want to be manager? Yeah, go ahead.
Don't just let me go back. I just want to say one more thing about those players you're talking about. If you go back and look at my drafts, okay, and that's one of the things the general manager is responsible for. Go take a look at the drafts we made in those 6 years. And you'll see that every one of those players, as 18-year-olds, came to the Maple Leafs and played their whole careers in the National Hockey League, except for Gerry McNamara, who was playing for the Islanders, I think, and the Islanders sent him to the minors for 2 weeks for conditioning purposes. The only guy that ever played in the minors. If you look at our drafts, we did pretty well. I think we did better than anybody else. We really want to know. And first 4 rounds. The first 4 rounds were the rounds that I was interested in. That's where I put my knowledge. The first 4 rounds.
And
so,
and
go
the
ahead.
record speaks for itself.
Go ahead.
The record speaks for itself. The record speaks for itself. Okay, back to Ballard. How frustrating was it with having Harold Ballard looking over your shoulder, undermining your work, telling you we're going to hire this coach instead of the guy you want, etc.? How frustrating was that for
you? He treated me really well. I can tell you that right now. He treated me really well, but he wouldn't let me hire my own coach. And that was a big item. That was huge. Like I could have got a coach, could have made that team play pretty well, but he wouldn't let me. And to have him sort of around all the time, it was difficult. But he sort of let me alone. And I'd went and say, I'd like to do this or I'd like to do that. He'd say, okay, you think we should do it? Do it. And I would do it. But the thing is this, that every once in a while, he tried to be funny. He's not a comedian, but he tried to be funny. And I was in a bad car accident in the summertime of 1981. And one day he said, well, the guy was in a car accident, so insinuating that something out of my head. Anyway, he was tough. You never knew what he was going to do. You'd come in the morning and you'd see maybe 2 coats from outside and a couple of cameras, and you say, oh, what are we going to get today? Every day was different. You never knew what you were going to get.
Do you think there's a Ballard curse?
Do I think
on the Maple Leafs?
I don't like to believe in that, but there's a McNamara curse.
Okay, tell me about it.
when you lose a job?
Yeah.
And you feel badly? Now, as it turned out, I went and worked for Calgary and got a Stanley Cup. But the thing is this, that you don't leave with a very good impression, and you don't leave with well wishes, because that's not me. I can't do that. I die hard.
Well, yeah.
So you can read between the lines.
The curse of Gerry McNamara. Okay. So when does the curse come to an end, Gerry? Is this the year? When are you going to lift the curse?
Well, I shouldn't tell you this, but you know what? I'm being quite old. I'm 88 now. So I guess I have the right to say some things that ordinarily I might not say. But I really felt badly about this past little deal that went on with Borja. I was instrumental in getting him here, and I was kind of crushed because I didn't get invited to that occasion with him there. I would love to have seen him, especially when he passed away right after. And it still sticks in my craw. That's how I feel about it.
Right. Well, It certainly is an oversight from my standpoint that the guy who is most responsible for bringing Borja Salming to North America and ultimately becoming the player that he became, even though he probably should have won several Norris trophies, should obviously be a part of that. So that is unfortunate, Gerry. I understand, working for Harold, the stuff you've gone through, why you would be a little upset about that. But I want to say this: is it time to lift the curse?
You know what? I kind of watch them now, and my assessment would be if the goaltending stands up and the defense plays okay, they can win.
Yes.
Now, I like the goaltending the way it sits, but it has to be consistent for the whole year. And also the defense, I think, has to be maybe a little better. They got good forwards.
There's certainly time. I mean, we're only into not the end of December here, beginning of January, so there's certainly time to make some adjustments in terms of trades and
they're on a pretty good run right now.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with what they got going on right now. Yeah. So what is your prediction for the Maple Leafs this year? Let's hear that.
Say that again.
What do you predict for the Maple Leafs this year? What is your prediction? Are you going to say they're going to win it this year?
I think that they have a chance. I think they have a big chance. Once again, it'll depend on the goaltending. That'll be the number one thing. It always comes down to goaltending. Mm-hmm. Always comes down. If you see any team that wins, they win because the goaltenders are good.
Right. And do you like what you see from Samsonov and Matt Murray?
I don't watch it much because I spend a lot of time. I've got a great nephew who's a pretty good hockey player, and I'm working with him, and I watch his games, and so I don't see the National Hockey League as much as I used to, but I've seen a couple of games, and I like the way they play. They've got some really good players, and I think they have a good chance.
Beautiful. So tell me about your grandnephew. What's his name and who's he playing for?
His name is Luke McNamara, and he plays for Sagan in the OHL. And I think he's going to be a player.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for him.
That's my prediction. Sure. That's my prediction.
There's your prediction. He's going to be a heck of a player. Good stuff. Well, Gerry, listen, I want to thank you for joining us, and it sounds to me like you've lifted the curse, which all Maple Leaf fans will be happy to hear, and and we're looking forward to enjoying a nice Maple Leafs run this year.
Joe, you're good. You're good.
Thanks, buddy.
I'll tell you right now, you're good. You got a lot out of me today.
Thanks, buddy. You're good.
I appreciate being on the show. I might not give out. Anyway,
well, I appreciate your insight. Yeah, happy New Year to you and all the best in 2023. And thanks for taking this time, Gerry.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. More sports when we come back. Thank you.
Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by
Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAOnline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to HPIBet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's HPIBet.com.
Visit moregolf.ca. You'll find everything a golfer could need, from balls, gloves, and clubs to custom fitting opportunities, training gear, valuable accessories, and some great deals. Don't miss the Boxing Day special. Incredible value. Balls, hats, shoe bags, accessories, all for just $99.95 while supplies last, including free shipping. Go to moregolf.ca today.
In 1:26-1.
Now my Coastal Swiss pick of the week. Last time out, I took Catch Me on the Beach in Thursday night's third race for 2-year-old colts and geldings, but it was favorite. No control, incomplete control, cruising to victory in 1:53. That's a quick time. Tyler Jones driving for trainer Tan McAuliffe. Catch Me on the Beach had to settle for fourth. This week, I'm going to Thursday night's seventh race of Mohawk Trotters. The number 4 horse, the Tina Hanover, with Scott Young in the buggy, coming off a huge race last week where she came on strong for the victory. I also like the 469 Exacta and Trifecta box. For all the racing updates, visit Costa TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to hpibet.com for your wagering options.
This is the Excellent Sports Adventure, brought to you by Lycom.
The Blue Jays outfield will have a entirely different look this season. And defensively, they will be terrific after acquiring the latest piece, Dalton Borshow, an outfielder who can also catch, from the Diamondbacks for outfielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and catching prospect Gabriel Moreno. Borshow, who's 26, hit .235 last season, but he had a career-high 27 home runs, 74 RBI for Arizona. Offensively, he was 9% better than the average big league hitter. Borshow tied for second in the majors in defensive runs saved. He also threw out 33% of the runners who tried to steal on him in 31 games behind the plate. With Borshow in left, Kevin Kiermaier in center, and George Springer in right, the Jays have the best outfield in the game from a defensive standpoint. They've added 2 key lefty bats.
I think it's another challenge, and I always enjoy those because it just puts a little bit more effort and a lot of more work into understanding what I can do out there, and so I'm ready for it. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun and understanding different routes and different swings on my end, and I'm just ready for that challenge to be able to dominate that and be able to master it.
The impact that he's going to have on our team is going to be on every side of the ball, the base running impact, the speed, the versatility, elite defense, and the fact that he can also catch for us is about as good of a fit as possibly we could have found. I think it is the ideal fit for this roster and one that we are very excited about.
Well, after a couple of rough road dates, the Maple Leafs got it going real nice at home again. Yeah, it was a power play. Mitch Marner takes the feed from John Tavares. Mitch will rip that past Flyers goalie Carter Hart. Then it's William Nylander to Austin Matthews to Michael Bunting. The Scarborough kid is scorching right now. Buds over Philly 4-3. Well, just when you think they're looking like a lottery team, boom! Yeah, the Raptors put together back-to-back wins against 2 of the top 2 clubs in the East after dropping 52 big ones on the Knicks. Pascal Siakam followed up with 26 in Cleveland. A long triple here. Spicy P is the NBA's Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the 5th time in his career. OG Anunoby also had 26. Scotty Barnes added 25 as the Dinos finally figured out how to shoot. They made 19 threes on the night. Raps win by 11. If they can keep this going, no problem. Well, not a particularly good start for Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Momentum is a funny thing. You know, Canada had a goal call back and an offside challenge that would have given them a 2-0 lead over Czechia. Czechia would rally with 3 straight goals. Stanislav Stosel got the winner. Thomas Suchanek was huge between the pipes with 36 saves. Czechia wins at 5-2, but no big whoop. Lots of hockey to go here. Time now, once again, for our shot of the week.
Sanderson, par 312 hole, 140 yards away. Oh, and he lands it on the green. He'll be putting for birdie. Today's environmental tip. In some countries, folks are renting Christmas trees. That's right, the market is growing. Why do they do it? Well, they get to enjoy a healthy, real Christmas tree without worrying about what to do with it afterwards. There is zero waste because the tree doesn't die. Rented trees can be replanted and cared for by the supplier, ready to use again next year.
Rycom, passionate people who turn complicated business problems into simplified technology solutions for public and private sector real estate, properties, portfolios, and enterprise customers. Optimize and future-proof smart buildings from the ground up. The latest in fault locating, base building network design, managed services, cybersecurity, data analytics. Our fault detection will support all smart strategies, define projected outcomes for capital planning, and reduce environmental impact. Rycom, smart protection solutions. At Rycom, we're building a path to a smart and environmentally friendly future.
All the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We want to thank them all, and thank you for supporting Canadian and local sports. Reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, as well as the Spanglish Network, Zingo TV, and Buzz TV Live. You also want to check out our YouTube channel. There are past shows available, weekly sportscasts, all kinds of cool segments. Like and subscribe. It is absolutely 100% free. Thank you once again for watching the show. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by...
Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Aldo has a tremendous team of experts on staff. They are committed to making your next real estate transaction smooth and comfortable. Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit getaldo.com. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678.
MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more.
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.